When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle. Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish. You can't handle it, can you?
I don't know where to go from here. The podcast that recommends you do one person every day that scares you.
Oh, at least. As many as you can find. I did not take my pills this morning, Kyle.
Oh, it's going to be a fun one.
I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, what did you think of my...
It was good. It was really good. I liked it. Yeah. I didn't know how to follow it up, though, because I just have my dumb joke, you know.
It was great.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you write that one yourself?
Oh, yeah. I did that one myself.
Because you've been having people write them in.
Yeah. No, this one's me.
Great. I love it.
We're talking about vampires.
We're going to talk about vampires. And, Kyle.
What?
They suck.
Okay. Great. It's going to be a whole episode of this. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I hope so.
The answer is they're pretty gay, right?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't actually want to listen to the episode, you just want like the final verdict.
Yeah.
Gay.
They're gay. Yeah. But I think they're maybe like gay, but asterisk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's a butt asterisk?
But it's a cat's behind.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Great. We're going to talk about vampires, but first, I do have a little piece of feedback that I thought that I would read because I thought it was really interesting.
Okay.
This is from Westchester Guy on our Discord server. If you didn't know we have a Discord server, we have a Discord server. It's fun. There's a Send Nudes channel. Anyway, Westchester Guy wrote, chuckling ruefully at this inadvertent evidence of how much casual homophobia infuses our language. Gayish Mike and Gayish Kyle, that's our tags on the Discord server. Gayish Mike and Gayish Kyle are talking about why adolescent boys so easily sling homophobic slurs around, and Mike's not inaccurate answer is, quote, because kids suck. And yes, I for sure said that. I'm not advocating we try to excise that expression from our conversations because it is way, way too late for that, for one thing. So just accept and move on. But we should at least acknowledge its homophobic roots as well. Some will say it evolved out of sucks eggs, indicating a behavior of a farm dog you have to get rid of because it's developed a destructive habit that's past correcting. But we all know that is not why that expression caught on. And you still hear the full sucks dicks as a thoughtless slur, even from supposed straight allies. Same with cocksucker. Anyway, that's my language nerd digression. I now return you to your regularly scheduled rugby player slavering, +1 for Henry Cavill. And I do think it's really interesting. Like I'd never thought of the term sucks as being a homophobic.
Yeah, it's short for sucks dick, which is a bad thing. So when we say, I didn't think about that either.
But if you say this or that sucks, I don't automatically think sucks dick. But
yeah, I don't either. But I mean,
and there's also this thing about like, if that's not how it started, that might be where it ended.
Right.
So like you can't, I don't know. I get on my high horse sometimes about the word guy. Oh
yeah. We disagree on the word guy.
We do. And maybe that's partially because I was raised in the Pacific Northwest, which is regionally very strong here to say guys. Mm. But like, just because it started with the Guy Fawkes doesn't mean that doesn't mean a term for men now. And anyway, just like the etymology is always interesting to me. And I'd never thought of sucks as being something that had to do with dicks before. And so I might give me some pause using that, what I thought was innocuous phrase going forward.
I agree that that one is so entrenched in conversation that it'd be hard. That would be a hard one to stop saying.
I mean, I hear it in a professional context. Like I think that there's, I don't know, like we've desensitized it to the point that like, I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't think anything homophobic about it when I first hear it. So yeah, I don't know. I may, sometimes you just kind of skip on certain things like pop trends or Instagram trends or whatever. I may just skip on this one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for writing that in. Really appreciate it. Love feedback. Please send it in. Any method is fine. I love a fight. And now the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
Where do we want to start, Kyle?
Oh, I don't know.
9 days until the election.
Yeah.
So news the first. Republican Texas U.S. Senator Ted Cruz is under fire.
Good.
Because he used the images of some teenage girls in several campaign ads targeting transgender athletes. So Cruz is running for re-election against Democratic U.S. Republican Colin Allred. And in those ads, Cruz is criticizing Allred for supporting policies that allow trans athletes to compete in sports aligned with their gender identity. But the pictures were taken from a newspaper article about Beaverton School District, which is in Oregon. And the other thing is the girls in question are cis. So he's using pictures of cisgender girls from Oregon to talk about trans stuff.
Interesting. That's a weird. They just, someone just like needed a generic image of girls and just searched girls on the internet and copied that.
Yep. Well, so the newspaper article in question covers a local track meet where a trans athlete's participation drew mixed responses. But the ad definitely implies that the teens pictured are trans athletes. The ad calls them, quote, biological men, which that's like fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah. You could like sue for that for libel or slander. Which one is it when it's written?
I don't know.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I think libel is written, but I don't think that that's necessarily, because you also have to prove that it's meant to disparage or besmirch the name of the person.
Oh.
Which I don't know. Anyway, this is all in the context, though, of a recent report from Data for Progress that said that 54% of likely voters find political ads attacking trans folks as, quote, mean-spirited and out of hand.
Oh.
Even 41% of Republicans describe ads targeting trans people as sad and shameful.
So they're kind of over it, too, or not a majority, but a lot of them are kind of over it too.
Absolutely. The same poll said that voters care about the economy and that divisive social topics like trans issues and gay issues, LGBTQ issues writ large are not important. And 74% of people in that poll said that they believe that trans people deserve dignity and respect. So maybe that's like just a narrow window of dickbag fuckface assholes that are actually compelled by this whole trans controversy.
I keep getting the idea that there's this minority, really vocal minority that is the super far right wing Republicans, and a lot more people are more reasonable and for some reason still won't distance themselves from the group that they belong to, so are still culpable, but are a little bit more level-headed and don't give a shit about trans people and just want a president who is kind of intelligent and knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And will somehow still vote for Donald Trump.
Fuckers.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about that. News the second.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump.
Okay.
Went on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast last week.
If Donald Trump reached out to us and said, "I want to be on your show," what would we say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would do anything to get his kind of hate listeners.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Like we would only need a couple of episodes to get hate listened to, and then we would be super famous and rolling in it.
Yeah, I wish. All the newspapers quoting the crazy shit he said would have to reference our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we care more about fame than our morals.
I more care about quitting my day job, Kyle, because this podcast shit does not pay the bills.
That's true.
8 years in, and
yeah,
it's not
still
happening. Coming up on 8 years. Okay. Anyway, he gave a rambling interview on the Joe Rogan Experience. And by the way, he was hours late for a rally in Michigan that left his supporters shivering in the cold for almost 3 hours waiting for him to arrive because he was doing Joe Rogan instead. And But this is all in that space still of like trans people being the whipping post, and that like voters don't actually like it, but he sure beats on them every chance that he gets, including on that podcast. So he suggested that Vice President Kamala Harris wants, quote, all these transgender operations, which, by the way, an operation can't be trans.
That's true. That's not an adjective that could describe that word.
He said, quote, if you wanted a sex change and you were in detention and you demanded a sex change, they would give you a sex change.
Which we all know that's not true. Like, no one believes that, right? Like,
well, so I think that this is an example of something that has a kernel of truth to it that has been just totally blown out of proportion. Like it is true that there have been trans inmates whose gender affirming care has been deemed medically necessary, and in this country, because we give prisoners rights like the freedom from cruel and unusual punishment, and we've included their medical care as something that would be cruel or unusual to withhold from them. There are inmates who have received gender affirming care, including surgeries, because their doctors said so, and we don't torture our prisoners.
Right.
That then gets turned into, when you combine that with the right-wing bullshit, fucking horseshit, God damn it, Kyle, idea that it's capricious, that somebody just wakes up and is like, I want to be a girl now, and just goes and has a surgery. Like, you combine those two things and you end up with inmates just asking for a sex change and getting it.
Right.
It's just not how it works. He also then tied it to illegal immigration and made the claim that undocumented immigrants could be receiving taxpayer-funded gender-affirming surgeries, which is just incorrect. The talking point on the right that like undocumented workers in this country get all of these benefits that are not afforded to regular rank and file American citizens is not true. It is not true. They pay taxes and don't make any sort of draw on our benefits because, in part, there's a lot of federal laws that prohibit such a thing from happening because immigrants are also a favored whipping post of the right.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I'm fired up now, Kyle. Fuck. I will also say that on that podcast, Joe Rogan asked Trump to name a single example of election fraud. Oh. And Trump couldn't do it.
Yeah, of course, because it didn't happen. And all the times they've seen election fraud, it's been Republicans.
Yeah. He said a couple of things that, again, have a kernel of truth to them. This is a different kind of blowing it out of proportion, where there was, for instance, in Wisconsin, there were indeed 8 fraudulent absentee ballots that were discovered in an audit. 8. So then, of course, if it can happen, it did happen.
Yeah.
Not at the scale that would have changed the election. It's absolute utter horse shit.
Yeah.
Disproven many, many times by Republican officials.
Right.
All right. The election was not stolen. He did not win. Shut your goddamn fucking pie holes, you idiots.
Yeah, agreed.
News the last.
Let's do it.
I feel like this is a regular segment that we could do, Kyle.
Okay.
Of like, sometimes gay people are terrible.
Oh, yeah. I always hope you ended on an up note, but
I know. Not this time of year.
Not this
Kyle.
time. This time of year, it's rainy.
Not at this point in the election
fall.
cycle.
We're about to have elections. Everything's sad.
The notably gay former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch has been arrested on sex trafficking charges.
Notably gay?
Yeah. Mike Jeffries, who is 80, and his partner Matthew Smith, and their associate James Jacobson, which I want to know what is all encapsulated in the word associate in that sentence.
Yeah.
They were indicted Tuesday morning by a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of New York on over a dozen counts related to sex trafficking between December 2008 and March 2015. The 3 are accused of recruiting aspiring male models and coercing them into performing sex acts to further their careers. Jeffries and his associates would allegedly bring the men who expressed the desire to become models for Abercrombie & Fitch to sex parties where the men would be given drugs, alcohol, and Viagra, which is a drug. I don't know why. Anyway, and then made to perform the acts, and they're denying it, and their lawyers are saying that they're going to respond in detail, but plan to do so in the courthouse, not in the media. Which that's, I don't know, whatever. Fucking goddamn.
Damn. Yeah, gay people do some shitty things, but it's not all gay people, but it is some of them.
What do you think? Like, is anybody surprised that the CEO of the shirtless twink company is doing something like this? Right?
I mean, it shouldn't be the case that just because you have shirtless twinks around you, you're like not treating them right. But
I don't know, man. This is like, that whole business is built on the objectification of shirtless twinks.
Yeah.
So, like, whether the CEO is involved in the perviness or not, you know there are multiple pervs at multiple levels of that empire.
But you should be able to
just
hire
like the fraternity,
shirtless
Kyle.
models.
In the fraternity, we have all kinds of volunteers in my fraternity who are very much pervy. Like, not all of us are. All the time. But some definitely are involved in that endeavor for the wrong reasons.
Oh.
I don't know. Anyway, I file this under the, like, not that surprised.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we already knew he was an asshole. He like made some comments about, I forget what, he got in trouble for something, and we kind of learned that he was an asshole a long time ago. So him specifically is not surprising.
didn't you work there?
I did work there. I worked 2 shifts and gave away all my other shifts because I was secretly going to meet up with a boy.
Oh.
I just
At
told
work?
No.
Oh.
I was telling my parents I was going to work.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
I got a job. No, I didn't.
It kind of didn't. I really did get a job.
But then, like,
But then didn't work it.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
And that's part of their strategy, is hiring people that shop a lot to work, because then you end up spending more on the clothes than, because you get like a little bit of a discount, then you end up spending more on the clothes than you make in actual income. So they make more off of you. Like that's one of the strategies they use.
that's fantastic. It sounds like Avon when you put it like that. Or any pyramid scheme, really.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's the news.
That's the news. Speaking of pyramid schemes, join our Patreon.
Look, if we're running a pyramid scheme, we're not good at it.
We're not doing very well at it. Absolutely not. We don't have any new Patreon members this week, so I have no one to shout out. So
Fuck.
thank you to no one.
Okay, is this why nobody's buying my condo? Is everybody just like election nervous, so they're not spending any money on anything?
They're holding it in till December, maybe.
Holding it in. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Christmas presents.
Yeah. I don't know. But if you want to join our Patreon, we give you ad-free episodes a day early. You get to attend our happy hour, which is coming up on November 6th.
Hey. Listen to Kyle.
Oh.
This is important.
Oh, I already said it.
Say it again.
Okay. November 6th. I'm kind of scared now. November 6th at 6 p.m. Pacific is our quarterly happy hour. It is the day after the elections, so we can all, whatever happens, we'll have some time together to talk it through and have a little bit of a moment together. So
for the low price of $24 for the year,
yeah,
you can be the lowest level of Patreon and get invited to our happy hours and hang out with us and talk with us. You're going to spend that much at the bar.
Yeah.
So why not spend that much at the bar and give us that much money and then drink what you bought at the bar on the call with us?
Yep, exactly.
Together.
That was a great pitch for our happy hour. And then you can also...
Look, I always think it is a winning proposition to appeal to our listeners' alcoholism.
Yeah, that's true. And you don't have to wear pants.
No pants. Pants optional.
So, and then you can also use Mike's Hole. You get bonus segments and episodes. A lot of benefits. Sign up at patreon.com/gayish podcast.
Do it. You want to talk about vampires, Kyle?
Let's talk about vampires.
So this one was actually Derek's fault.
Yeah.
He said he wanted us to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we only heard one of those words. Vampire.
We just picked vampire. I have a list of things that we need to mention, or people will get mad at us.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. Just
Carmilla.
yeah, great. Lesbian
Lesbian.
vampire.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Don't know what that is, but it sounds sexy.
It's an FX TV show, and everyone in it is queer.
Great. Love that.
Every main cast member.
Great.
And now Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Great. Yes.
So I've mentioned those things. So you can't message us and say you forgot to mention this thing.
One of the very first lesbian kisses on national television was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer between Tara and Willow. And neither of them were a vampire. So I reject it as having any...
Willow was a vampire in an alternate universe.
Okay. Well, okay. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Did we do it enough, Derek? No, he's not. He's not happy.
He's lying.
Those are sarcastic thumbs.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Do you have anything on your list that we're not going to talk about that you just want to get out of the way so people don't say you didn't talk about this thing?
Not going to talk about emotional vampires.
Oh, okay.
Which is a psychological construct that I think is worth talking about, but is only peripherally related to like the blood-sucking queer
Actual
kind.
Vampire. Yeah. Here's a non sequitur.
Great.
Do you know what a vampire tea bag is?
No.
A freshly used bloody tampon.
Oh, God. Kyle. Oh, no. We're not going to talk about Vampire Weekend.
Oh, that's true.
Which is a band?
I think so. Okay. That's all the extent of that.
I think Twinks listen to Vampire Weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like angry twinks?
Aren't
they like rock?
Or I think Angry Twazzes, because they're like...
Oh, they're so mad they used to be Twinks and Torrent anymore.
Yeah, well, and Vampire Weekend was a while ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. We got those out of the way.
All right, well, let's talk about vampires, Kyle.
Okay.
Let's talk about the history of vampires.
Yeah.
So what's interesting to me, and Interview with the Vampire, which I'm going to talk about a lot later, touches on this. There actually have been examples of like mythological beings that feast on the blood or other bodily fluids of humans since society began. Like the ancient Romans had such a creature. Before that, the Persians had these kinds of creatures. The Egyptians, some people will say that the Egyptians had similar constructs. And so it's just there's something about the idea of there is a mythological, supernatural creature of some kind that like sucks your blood or your life force out of you.
Why is that so pervasive? Why do we keep creating that kind of creature? Like, what is it about? Is it just we all have blood and we're scared of dying, and so we imagine people taking our blood? Like, I don't know. I don't understand why that's such a pervasive creature throughout history.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's some like symbolic stuff happening that it's at some like really low level of our psychology. Are
you saying vampires for dum-dums?
What?
Low level of our psychology?
No.
What, that didn't mean idiots?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Just like, there's something like primordial about it, primitive about it. That like, it seems on par with like people are legit like automatically scared of spiders, even if they've never seen a spider before, because it's like built in our DNA to fear spiders. And I think that like fear of the unknown, fear of the other, and fear of the supernatural as an explanation for things that we don't understand, I think is very much like just part of the human experience at some like fundamental level.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some combination of all of that and the symbolic way that our brains work that leads to vampires being a thing that we invent over and over again.
Interesting.
Oh, the Mesopotamians also had like vampire precursors. But so because it's a thing that pops up over and over again, it's pretty difficult to come up with like a list of what makes a vampire, right? Like the modern vampire that we see in Western culture has sort of evolved over time. And those things are like, they may or may not be able to be in the sun. They may or may not immediately turn somebody else into a vampire when they bite them. The person might have to drink a vampire's blood in order to become a vampire. They may or may not be afraid of holy water or crosses. They may or may not be deterred by garlic. The way that you kill them varies in all of these traditions. You could sometimes you have to stake them in the heart. Sometimes you have to decapitate them. Sometimes you have to burn them. Sometimes there's just a whole bunch of stuff that kind of like swirls around this central idea. So if there's one thing though that every flavor of vampire seems to have in common, it's this idea that they drink your blood. Now, over the centuries, there have been like several things that are important. First, how do you identify a vampire? Like, how do you tell that someone is a vampire?
The teeth, and they go ha 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 ha. Ha.
One,
exactly.
One dead body. Yeah. How do you kill one? How do you dispose of one? What are the rules about being a vampire? And then what are the rules about being a vampire? What are the things that they can or can't do, and how do they do it?
Yeah.
But yeah, this idea that like they suck your blood is really the only common thread that all of them seem to have, no matter what.
Not the stake through the heart. The wooden stake through the heart is not common across everything.
No, again, in some traditions, the way to kill a vampire was to behead it. Oh. Sometimes it was to shoot it with a silver bullet, which there is this area where like vampires and werewolves kind of have this weird overlap, which is maybe how Twilight came to put those two together.
Yeah.
Behead it, burn it, stake it through the heart, starve it, or expose it to the sun. Those are all different things. So I'm going to talk a lot about Bram Stoker here in a little bit, but it really in the 18th or 19th century, that's when there were a bunch of Gothic romances that were written. You already mentioned Carmilla, but Dracula, for whatever reason, Bram Stoker's Dracula, that book sort of becomes the standard bearer and what really gets this whole genre of fiction going. So it's the Victorians, Kyle. We have the Victorians.
It's always the Victorians. Why is what they do so pervasive in our current society?
Can't help it. Don't know. Probably partially it's because of access to information. Like it was way easier for culture to be a thing when the Victorians were around because they had access to like the printing press and the ability to quickly disseminate cultural ideas and symbols throughout the society.
That was a really smart answer, Mike.
Thanks. Anyway, I'm going to talk a lot about Dracula, but like that's when vampires really become front and center. And because the Victorians had such weird repressed ideas about sex and sexuality, from the get-go, vampires are considered to be very erotic and sexual, and this sort of extension of repressed sexuality in Victorian culture.
Yeah, it's all that sucking.
So I'm going to touch on later in later segments. I'm going to touch on Bram Stoker, and then sort of more of these questions of like, are vampires gay, or in what ways? Because they definitely are. But yeah, what do you got?
I'm going to talk to you about True Blood.
True Blood, yeah.
Did you watch this show?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay.
Yes. What was her brother's name? I just wanted him to sit on my face.
For sure.
Ryan Quantick. But something Stackhouse. Jason Stackhouse.
Oh, yeah.
God damn, that guy was hot. But
so hot.
so was Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh, for sure.
And his character, whose name now escapes me. It's been a while since I watched it.
It's been a while since I watched it. I don't remember anything except Sookie. There are similarities between are vampires being used as a metaphor for gays, and in the TV show, so it's based on a book, but in the TV show, at least, because I never read the books, I don't know. The after the creation of True Blood, vampires could then, instead of feeding on humans, drink this synthetic blood, so they were able to, what they called, come out of the coffin and reveal their existence to the world, because they no longer had to eat humans.
Fucking hilarious.
This is called the Great Revelation, that split vampires into two camps: those who wanted to integrate into human society by campaigning for citizenship and equal rights.
Yeah.
Hey, that sounds familiar. And those who think human vampire coexistence is impossible because vampires are naturally predatory, which that doesn't. Then it starts to fall. The metaphor starts to fall apart there.
Oh, I don't think so.
You think that there are some gays that are naturally predatory and violent?
Oh, well, yeah. I do think that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But also, like, maybe it's belaboring the metaphor. I don't know, but like, there are gays that think like, we don't want gay marriage. That's hetero bullshit.
Yeah.
We don't want monogamous relationships. That's hetero bullshit. And this sort of wholesale rejection of integration as the goal.
Yeah, for sure. There are even like different gay groups that, like, you know, fought for like assimilation versus like nonconformity.
The Deviants War by Eric Servini, sit on my face, Eric. But details that in a lot. Why can't I talk, Kyle? It's a podcast.
Because you started thinking about Eric Servini and you got distracted by how beautiful he is.
So hot. But Frank Kameny and the other folks involved in the early homophile movement in the 50s and 60s had this exact schism in the gay rights movement. And so it's easy to see the parallels.
Yeah. Other things, they called humans breathers.
Okay, sure.
Which we call them breeders.
Hilarious.
We stopped calling them breeders, I think, when like we could finally start like having children of our own, and, you know, adoption became legal, and like there are all these reasons. I think that fell out of favor.
I agree. I feel like I used to hear it more often anyway. Like I don't have any data, but it feels that feels right.
Yeah, I think I'm right. Sure. And that's all that matters.
Great.
And then in the show, there was signs that say "God hates fangs,"
great.
Which, you know, God hates fags.
Yeah.
So there are,
like, they really did not put a lot of lacquer on this thin veneer.
Nope. Exactly. And so the author of the best-selling novels that the TV show is based on, Charlaine Harris, hoped fans would pick up on the link between vampires and gay rights when she published the book in 2001.
Oh, but it was less overt.
I don't know what happened in the book.
Well, because if the shit that was in the show was in there, and boy, I hope that sure works. Girl, you're beating us over the head with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the coming out of the coffin thing is definitely from the book. So,
yeah.
So there's at least that. However, the creator of the TV series, Alan Ball, who himself is gay.
Ball.
Great.
Great.
Said, quote, "To look at these vampires on the show as metaphors for gays and lesbians is so simple and so easy, it's kind of lazy."
Oh, shut your hole.
If you really... No, he keeps talking. He keeps saying words. "If you get really serious about it, well, then the show could be seen as very homophobic because vampires are dangerous. They kill. They're amoral."
Oh my God, shut up.
You had a strong reaction. I could understand this criticism of if this represents gay people.
I understand the criticism. I absolutely do. And because it's election season, I'm very sensitive to this. I really, really think that there is such confirmation bias and groupthink that humans are capable of. And this represents that. He's a gay dude. Of course he thinks that this is simple and reductive because he's not a straight person living in Indiana for whom this might be a revelation and not simple and maybe a valuable exercise for them to go through. But to think like, oh, it's not worth saying because it's pedestrian, I think is just is irresponsible and myopic.
Wow. I didn't know this was going to get such strong reaction from you. I love it. Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, great.
I disagree with you though, but I loved but you use such big words that it's hard to argue with you.
Yeah, that's Ben Shapiro has made a whole career out of just saying big words really fast.
Are you this podcast Ben Shapiro?
Do you still want him to hate fuck you?
A little bit.
Okay, great.
Just a little bit. Just a touch.
Great.
Scholar Lauren Guterman, who coordinates OutHistory.org, a project of CUNY's Center for Lesbian and Gay Studies, said, "This is a smart person saying stuff." Quote, The good vampires are those that are able to contain their appetite for blood and sex, and the bad vampires are those who kill people, drink their blood, and are hypersexual. There is a long history of association between vampires and sexual deviants, and gays and lesbians as being parasitic in a similar way that vampires are. So I wonder to what extent the show is trying to challenge that association, or if it's perpetuating it. So she is also on the Alan Ball side. You're holding your head in your hands.
That's fine.
The other side of, you know, the people that want equal rights and are drinking True Blood and whatever are the like ones that attack and kill people. And I think, yeah, gays as parasites on society or are destroying society or killing other people is something that the right, especially around the AIDS crisis, like strongly believed. So to bring that into a show, I don't know. I might be on their side.
There is art as being descriptive and prescriptive, right? And like the idea that this phenomenon that you're talking about is happening. Right? Like for every criticism that the right lays upon us, that we drink too much, we do too many drugs, we fuck left and right, we're just a bastion of sexually transmitted infections, all of that is true. Like there are big pockets of gay culture for which that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And we hide that and fight that all the time in order to say we are not a monolith. There's more than one way to be gay. We're not all in that camp. And yes, that is a camp that exists, and denying that it exists is irresponsible. So I think as a piece of description, we can't say that this is bad because it is true. Just like the vampires, there are those of us that want to integrate and those of us that don't. There are those of us that want to be polite society and on the straight and narrow, and those that want to go be debaucherous and sexually free. I think that the question is shining a light on that then prescriptive? Are we perpetuating that by having that be a thing that we talk about and show? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I also think it's a metaphor, so it doesn't have to work one-to-one. Like, it doesn't have to be precisely like vampires are precisely representing gay people. You know, everything doesn't have to be an accurate depiction of exactly how gay people work.
Sure.
They're using a different group and coming up with their own rules and incarnations of humans to
we do drink blood.
We do drink blood. There's that. But only the synthetic kind, not from necks. When I bite your neck, it's just for funsies, not to drink your blood.
Yep.
Yeah, that was True Blood.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another franchise then.
Great.
Let's talk about Interview with the Vampire and Anne Rice and that whole thing. Did you read Interview with the Vampire?
Nope.
So Interview with the Vampire now has had three things. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know about Interview with the Vampire, it was a novel written by Anne Rice that was published in 1976. It was then turned into a movie with
Tom Cruise and
Brad Pitt and Kirsten Dunst in 1994, and now is since 2022 a television series. And I just wanted to talk about Interview with the Vampire as being, especially because it was 1976 or whatever, is deeply, deeply sexual. And how it has become more and more overtly so in each iteration. So in the Interview with the Vampire, the whole thing is exactly what it says right there in the title. A young journalist, has the opportunity to interview a vampire who is named Louis de Poindelac. And so he is from Louisiana, from the 18th century, so 1791, and is turned into a vampire by Lestat de Leoncourt. And they become companions, being vampires together.
Companions, you say, with some stank in it, because
Oh, so one thing that got left out of the movie that's definitely in the book, for instance, there's no the book. To my knowledge, the book doesn't have any like explicit like they be fucking like language to it. But when Lestat turns Louis into a vampire, the first couple of nights, Louis doesn't have his own coffin, so Lestat insists that he share his coffin with him. And that's like
cuddle with me.
That's not gay.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So
it's just letting your homie live with you. They're just roommates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're just very good friends.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that's interesting to me in this, there's a couple of things that are interesting in this space to me. Anne Rice wrote this book while she was mourning the death of her daughter who had leukemia. And was it leukemia? Did I make that up? I thought it was a blood-borne cancer of some kind. Anyway, Anne Rice wrote her daughter had passed, and she wrote this book while mourning her. And Anne Rice was doing this in the 70s, which there had been a big rise in gay culture at that time, post Stonewall, pre-AIDS. It's a very specific period in our history.
Yeah,
and there's this dude in Esquire magazine. His name is Stephen Marsh, and he wrote this article in 2009, right when Twilight was coming out, talked about what's really going on with all these vampires. And he includes Anne Rice and the Interview with the Vampire as being part of this phenomenon of the homoeroticism that's built into most vampire work.
Yeah.
And he says, quote, "The real reason for vampire mania is that young straight women want to have sex with gay men." Not all young straight women, of course, but many, if not most of them. And so, I don't know. Do you have a reaction to that? What do you think about that idea that like most straight girls want to bang gay dudes?
I mean, I think we've all gotten the like, oh, I wish you were straight. Like, why couldn't you have been straight kind of thing from a straight girl at one point? But that wasn't every single straight girl that was saying that. That I think it's the like maybe 1 in every 10 or something. I don't think it's most straight girls that do that. Which that's an annoying thing, by the way. If you've ever done that, don't do that. That's not a compliment.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you ever gotten that? Like,
oh yeah,
if only you were straight.
Yeah.
You're like, sorry, I worked real hard to not be gay,
right.
But here I am.
Not for lack of trying.
I tried so hard. But yeah, I don't know that I don't agree with that. I think there's probably some subsection of straight girls that want that, but not like it's not like most.
Yeah, there's a like I can't quite put my finger on it, but like the symbols that are involved here, it's like for women, sex is dangerous and is portrayed as dangerous, and rightly so. That men are sexual predators and are like there's a reason that most sexual assault is perpetuated by men. That there's something in either the biology or the culture or the whatever the confluence of factors are that like sex is dangerous is a message that we give to women through media and through culture. So the idea that vampires represent a sort of masculinity because of the danger that's involved and the violence that's involved, and then you add just like a dash of sexuality to it, and then you add in that vampires together represent some sort of homoeroticism. To say that that's why straight girls like vampire porn, I think is really, there's something there. Like,
I think a lot of women write gay erotic novels, like a lot of and especially like supernatural ones, like a lot of, for some reason, a lot of them even today are written by straight women. Mm-hmm. So I think there is some subset that are really fantasized about the gay supernatural creatures, and a lot of them that write about it too, for some reason.
Yeah. Maybe it's because they want to fuck gay dudes.
Maybe it's because they want to fuck gay dudes. Maybe they think it's hot. Maybe there's something like almost protective about the fact that they're not the object. Like they can watch something sexual. They're not the object of the affection. So it removes them from the equation. So there's no danger for them. So you just get to enjoy it.
I think that's, yes, exactly right. Yes. So the novel gets turned into the 1994 film Interview with the Vampire that is Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and Kirsten Dunst. Also, the journalist is played by Christian Slater, which I didn't realize this until I was looking at it for the show. But apparently River Phoenix was initially cast as the journalist and then died. So Christian Slater was sort of a pinch hitter there or whatever. And Christian Slater apparently gave all of his money that he made from filming Interview with the Vampire to River Phoenix's foundation.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I don't know who River Phoenix is.
Oh, well, he was a hot boy that died.
Okay.
If you're Gen X, you know exactly who that is. Also, Antonio Banderas was in that movie as Armand, and I had many confusing feelings about him in that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
So the gay overtones in that film are sort of hinted at. Like it's the mid 90s, early 90s, and you can't come right out and be like these hot vampires be fucking.
Right.
But and people also rightly point out that like homoeroticism in vampires was already well established, arguably from the very, very beginning. I'm going to talk about Dracula here after this, but and there's like Spike and Angel in Buffy the Vampire Slayer wanted to fuck. Kiefer Sutherland's character in The Lost Boys for sure has a thing for Jason Patrick's character. But they still have to sort of dance around it, right? Like you can't be super overt about it. Yeah. So there's this in Attitude magazine, there's this quote, very much a queen of the damned with a Q, a QW, very much a queen of the damned. Lestat seduces mask for mask Louis into his world, then coerces his reluctant boyfriend into an eternal relationship he only agreed to on the rebound when his missus died.
Is that the new show?
No, that's the movie. Talking about the movie. But Lestat is clearly in love with Louis, and Tom Cruise actually does a really good job, I think, of depicting that, despite the fact that he's like a dickbag fuckface asshole and like quote unquote straight. But this same article in Attitude ends with this really great sentence. It's perhaps no coincidence that the conservative vampires of the Twilight franchise lacked bite. It was all too heteronormative. For whatever reason, vampires work best when sucking blood is a thinly veiled metaphor for sucking cock. And I agree with that. This sort of like, will they, won't they, dance around it, etc.
Yeah.
So the thing that I'm really leading to, though, is if you have not watched the TV series currently on AMC, Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, do yourself a favor. It is the gayest shit that I have ever seen. And I watch a lot of porn. In this, they say the quiet part out loud. Specifically, Louis and Lestat are fucking. They're together because they are romantically entangled, overtly so. And I think that it is a magical adaptation of these materials. Like, it is faithful to the tone of the book and the movie. It is, but takes many, many departures that I think make the story better instead of worse. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It is hot as hell. And I can't wait for season 2, which is supposed to, season 3. Season 3 is coming. It was renewed. And should cover The Vampire Lestat, which is the second book in the Vampire Chronicles that Anne Rice wrote. But again, like, there's so many differences because they're being so overt about, like, they be fucking.
Yeah.
And I think that the, like, tension points between them because of the overtly sexual nature of their relationship and overtly romantic nature of their relationship really is fascinating, because they're saying what I think a lot of us in the gay world have experienced, which is two dudes in a relationship are still two dudes in a relationship. And there's a lot of sort of dynamics and things that we're taught as men to how to operate and what's important that I think can create drama in a relationship if you're not really, really careful to pay attention to it and give it voice.
What kind of like issues do dudes run into in a relationship that is like inherent to like gay culture?
Well, I think it's only sort of touched on in this incarnation of Interview with the Vampire. But if you think of like sucking somebody's blood as being a metaphor for fucking them, then there are the dynamics of monogamy versus
poly or
non-monogamy,
open,
being open, because like Louis doesn't want to feed on other humans. It makes him feel guilty, and I think that there's some thin indications there that like he feels like he's cheating. But whereas Lestat is like, no, I'm a bloodthirsty red sexual person, and I'll always come back to you and sleep in the coffin with you, but I'm going to go suck as many dudes as I can, or people as I can. And I think that that's at the heart of like, we're acculturated to be sexual beings, and we sort of but make excuses for male sexual behavior. And then you put two dudes together, and how do you navigate that and what we've been taught and what sex means, and the very real sort of libidinous differences.
Women are the ones that are expected to like chain a guy down, like the old ball and chain. Like they're the ones to like help raise their husband into an adult, keep them faithful. Like that's what women have been like culturally said that they have to do to men for so long. Yeah. So when you don't have that there, then what? Yeah. And the whole like predator and prey dynamic that is so pervasive when it comes to love and sex and romance, and that women are always cast as prey in that. I'm not saying I agree with it. That's just like that's the vibe or whatever. Yeah. We talked about straight women writing gay vampire shit.
Did you have an Anne Rice thing?
Yeah, that's what I was leading into.
Great, do it. Yeah.
Artfully.
Great, yeah, well done.
Is Anne Rice a straight woman?
I think it depends on who you ask. I forget.
Oh, I was going to answer myself. You don't have to answer.
Oh, great. Okay, great. It's the Kyle show, everybody.
Mike, shut up. In an interview with the Daily Beast, she said, quote, "I've always been very much a champion of gay rights and art produced by gay people. People told me Interview with the Vampire was a gay allegory, and I was very honored by that. I think I have a gay sensibility, and I feel like I'm gay because I've always transcended gender, and I've always seen love as transcending gender. I get teased a lot by my gay friends because we have a rapport on things we find exciting or interesting. It's very hard for me to remember that I have a gender."
Interesting. That's super interesting. Right?
Did she come out like the way she kind of talked around it? She did say in there, "I feel like I'm gay."
Yeah. But also non-binary?
But also, or agender. Yeah, non-binary, like agender, kind of. But also before that said, "I have a gay sensibility," which does not make you gay just because you fit some gay stereotypes. That's like what this show is about. Yeah. I don't know. It was such a weird way to phrase all of that, and the conflation of sexuality and gender. I don't know. It seems like she said she's gay. She said in there, "I feel like I'm gay," so she's gay.
Yeah.
Wild.
Or certainly queer. Right?
Some kind of queer.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I actually want to do.
Also, her son is gay.
Her son is gay. Yeah.
And he continued the legacy on after she stopped writing and died.
Oh.
And he wrote lots of the books that are in that universe.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
He also lives in WeHo.
Oh. You know a lot about him.
I hope he goes to the Pink Pony Club.
Oh. Pink Pony Club.
It won't stop, Kyle. It's in my head every waking second now.
It's in your head forever.
I want to find her so that I can, I don't know, suck her blood, I guess. I don't know.
Ask Reddit.
Ask Reddit.
Someone posted, "Are vampires gay?"
Fuck yes, they are.
And some of the comments, "All vampires are gay, asterisk, the one notable exception being Edward Cullen."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Somehow Twilight, but it was homoerotic when they got the vampire and the werewolf fighting each other.
Yeah, but that was for the affections of a woman, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
It was like homoerotic in the way that like wrestling is homoerotic.
Yeah.
Like I'm into it, but that doesn't mean they are.
Yeah. Someone said vampires are inherently gay as far back as Carmilla. Anything vamps is gay. Someone else said, in fact, a vampire is a timeless being who usually follows the ways and customs of when he was alive or tries to adapt to the times he is living in, following trends. Therefore, a vampire can be bi, straight, or gay. It will depend on what he wants to be. The act of biting a victim is just as gay as the bite you give a piece of meat.
Okay.
You were saying the opposite, that biting is a metaphor for sex.
Yes.
So there's another view of it is, well, they're feeding. So the bite has nothing to do with being gay or sex. It's just feeding.
But it's also described almost universally as a like orgasmic oral sexual experience.
Yeah.
Like,
and why always on the neck? Like,
yeah, and there's words like engorged and throbbing, and like our hearts beat in sync with each other. Like there's like, if it were just that, then I think that it would be described differently than it usually is in the literature.
and vampires would be way more boring.
Yeah, for sure. They'd be werewolves.
Yeah. Take that, werewolves. I think someone else said, I think all vampires end up bi because if you live long enough, you try everything at least once.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that was a thing that they touched on in one of my favorite shows, Future Man.
Oh,
so great. I loved that show. But like in one version, in one part of that show, they live in like a simulation of some kind for like thousands of years or something. Like time has no meaning in this place that they are, and like all of them eventually like are bi for a while and then gay for a while and back to straight, and who knows. Like it's exactly this thing. Like live long enough and you're going to try some shit. And
yeah.
Who knows what you're going to actually like.
Yeah. I don't know. Given the long enough time frame, is everyone bi?
Who knows?
Someone said vampires are goth, not gay.
Okay.
And then someone replied, yeah, but goth is also gay.
Goth is very gay.
I think goth is kind of gay. There's eyeliner involved.
Yeah.
Someone said, I can't speak for all vampires, but I myself am definitely gay.
Wait, are you a vampire?
So that's the implication. And then the last one, someone said vampires are homophobic. A drop of semen has more life than blood. Why don't they suck dick?
I mean, that's a point.
Would semen give you just as much energy as sucking blood? And have we tried it?
Let me see if I can find it. There was a thing I read about a semen vampire.
I saw that on Urban Dictionary as like a cum vampire, which is someone that just likes to suck dick so they get that cum.
But they were going after like, is it sexual vampire? Yeah, the sexual vampirism here is that like you've got to, in Chinese erotic literature, this is from the Wikipedia article on sexual vampire. In Chinese erotic literature and sex manuals, intercourse is often metaphorically referred to as a battle or war of the sexes, and one partner defeats the enemy, the battle of sexual energy absorption. And men defeat their female enemy in a sexual battle by mastering Taoist ejaculation control. And the goal is to excite her until she reaches orgasm and sheds her yin essence, which the male then absorbs. But so then a Chinese sexual vampire is like she's a jizz vampire. She's trying to get
that jizz.
Get that jizz. And Like,
this what we described as a very toxic way of looking at sex.
Absolutely.
I'm horrified by it.
Absolutely.
I like the sexual jizz vampire better.
Okay, well, I think men.com has something on that too. Well, okay, I said I was going to talk about Dracula, and I want to talk about Dracula.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, Dracula is not the first vampire book. There's for sure other vampire books, including Carmilla, which is before Dracula. So don't at me. And Dracula is the earliest, most successful, most prolifically read, and then the cultural phenomenon that became what vampires are. So it was written in 1897 by Bram Stoker. Now, the thing is, Dracula is not gay. Like there are a couple of things that people point to in Dracula as being gay. So there's a couple of things in the original Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel, that are pointed to as being overtly homoerotic. One is Jonathan Harker, who is the protagonist of the book, who's played by Keanu Reeves in the movie. If you saw Bram Stoker's Dracula in the 90s. The 90s were all about the vampires, man.
Yeah.
But he's trapped in Dracula's castle and is approached by a trio of lady vampires. Mm. And he says, quote, "I felt in my heart a wicked burning desire they would kiss me with those red lips." And one of the lady vampires laughs and says, "There are kisses for us all." And then Dracula, who's a dude, comes in and is super mad and yells at them, quote, "This man belongs to me."
Oh.
And this idea of like dom sub dynamics and homoeroticism as part of Dracula / a vampire's persona is like from the get-go.
I haven't thought about the dom sub part of this. Like, there's a sense of, if you turn the person, there's a sense of ownership and or belonging that can come along with that leads very well into a metaphor about dom sub dynamics. I didn't think about that.
Well, and in the Interview with the Vampire franchise, there's a clear dom sub relationship between Lestat and Louis.
Hot.
Yeah, it is hot. So in the book, Harker on multiple occasions takes notice in Dracula's lips and how they could kiss his neck. Ooh. And then at the very end of the book, Jonathan Harker ends up escaping and then gets married to Mina. And is it the day after their wedding? No, it's not. But they're married, and Dracula breaks into their bedroom. And here's the passage. Quote, "On the bed beside the window lay Jonathan Harker, his face flushed and breathing heavily as though in a stupor. Kneeling on the near edge of the bed facing outward was the white-clad figure of his wife. By her side stood a tall, thin man clad in black. His face was turned from us, but the instant we saw him, we all recognized the Count, Dracula. In every way, even to the scar on his forehead. With his left hand, he held both Mrs. Harker's hands, keeping them away with her arms at full tension. His right hand gripped her by the back of the neck, forcing her face down on his bosom. Her white nightdress was smeared with blood, and a thin stream trickled down the man's bare breast, which was shown by his torn open dress. The attitude of the two had a terrible resemblance to a child forcing a kitten's nose into a saucer of milk to compel it to drink." And so Leslie S. Klinger, as a Dracula scholar and trying to answer the question what is going on there, says that the scene is, quote, "crammed with implications, nearly all of them sexual. You have a vengeful cuckoldry, a ménage à trois, mutual oral sexuality, and the impregnation of Mina." And it is pointed to as like the smoking gun that Dracula and Jonathan Harker are more than just hunter and prey, or more than just hungry and food. Huh. And I don't know. It's the dom sub stuff is all in there. I just think it's really interesting. But back to Bram Stoker. That boy was gay.
Was he?
Bram Stoker, the author, was by many people's estimation gay. So, and there's a couple of things. I won't go into all of it, but he was born in Ireland in 1847, and apparently he was a jock in college, which is interesting. But then the things that really point to him being gay were, first, he was obsessed with Walt Whitman, who has his own controversies about being gay. But Bram Stoker wrote him a 2,000-word fan letter. So he read Leaves of Grass and became a full-fledged Whitman stan, and wrote him this huge-ass fan letter, which is kind of a love letter, but he held on to it for 4 years before sending it with a second letter.
Oh.
And said, quote, "The 4 years which have elapsed have made me love your work fourfold. And if I were before your face, I would like to shake hands with you, for I feel that I would like you. I would like to call you comrade and to talk to you as men who are not poets do not often talk." But in this letter, like a Grindr profile, he writes about his own physical appearance. He says, quote, "I am 6 feet 2 inches high and 12 stone weight naked, and used to be 41 or 42 inches around the chest. I am ugly but strong and determined, and have a large bump over my eyebrows. I have a heavy jaw and a big mouth and thick lips, sensitive nostrils, a snub-nose, and straight hair." And
Wow, that's an interesting thing to include in your letter to another dude.
Exactly. And Whitman's response, he wrote him back and he said, quote, "My dear young man, your letters have been most welcome to me. Welcome to me as a person and then as author. I don't know which most." Whitman also described his own appearance, quote, "My physique is entirely shattered, doubtless permanently, from paralysis and other ailments." The two finally met in 1884 and several times after that, and stayed friends until Whitman died in 1892.
But did they fuck?
Some people say yes. The evidence for that is buried in sort of like these letters to each other, but we know that they got together several times and totally had opportunity. And Walt Whitman was, again, got in trouble for the way that he wrote about young men. So it's possible. The other thing, though, is Bram Stoker was also really good friends with Oscar Wilde, which Oscar Wilde famously was put on trial for sodomy, and but they were buddies and hung out, and also had plenty of opportunity to hook up if they were so inclined. But that whole trial was happening while Bram Stoker was writing Dracula. Like that, all of that happens at the same moment in history. And Oscar Wilde went on a date with this woman named Florence Ann Lemon Balcom in 1876, and was it's debatable whether he had the hots for her or not, but he started dating her and told a friend, quote, "I am just going out to bring an exquisitely pretty girl to afternoon service in the cathedral. She's just 17 with the most beautiful, perfectly beautiful face I ever saw, and not a sixpence of money. I will show you her photograph when I see you next." And they dated for several months, and then they started drifting apart a little bit when Oscar Wilde went to Oxford University. And so that's when Bram Stoker swept in and started dating her. So they dated the same chick, and Bram Stoker eventually married her.
Wow.
Oscar Wilde apparently was heartbroken that she sort of rejected him and went for Bram Stoker instead. And so much so that he asked her to return to him the small gold cross he had given her years earlier. But then apparently he got over it, and the three of them would hang out a lot.
Oh.
And depending on who you ask, she was a beard and knew that she was a beard, and let them diddle each other for funsies and would look the other way.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway,
drama.
But people point to his relationships with these more overtly queer men, one of whom went on trial for being gay, and this whole like love triangle situation, that and some of these passages in Dracula as all a sign that Bram Stoker was gay or queer anyway, that very much fed into Dracula and therefore the whole vampire genre. And I think that's super duper interesting.
Yeah, that is a catalyst for why vampires read as so gay is really interesting, because the author that wrote them might have been gay himself.
Yep. Yep. And scared of it. That's also important, right? Like at a time when he couldn't be out, people were being put on trial for this. Sodomy was very much like not only frowned upon, but being actively prohibited in certain parts of the world, including England and Ireland, the UK, and that he was taking a big risk exploring this. Some people also say that that's why it took him like 4 years to write the book, because he was having a hard time wrestling with how much of his own queer identity and sensibilities to include in the work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that makes sense that you'd represent gayness as something evil or monstrous in that time.
And irresistible.
And irresistible, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Bram Stoker.
Interesting.
Yeah. What else do we got?
I think that's all I got.
Okay. I mean, we talked about vampires a lot.
I think so. We talked about some seminal works. Yeah.
Okay. Any parting thoughts? Well, first of all, final verdict: vampires are gay.
Vampires are gay. Yeah. Sorry. You knew we were going to get here. But there may be something harmful about the way that they're represented, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
As a metaphor for gayness.
Yeah. Hopefully they become unnecessary.
Oh.
Like, I think that they represent a cultural anxiety about gay people, and that I hope that our culture changes so that that anxiety doesn't exist, and therefore vampires are less compelling.
Yeah. That's a beautiful parting thought.
Yeah. So should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's take a break. Break.
I knew it.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
Yeah, are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We're going to do our gayest and straightest.
We're going to do our gayest and straightest, but first...
Hey, remember.
Oh, God damn it.
What?
Nothing?
What?
Nothing.
Okay. Hey, remember.
Yeah.
Happy hour. Patreon happy hour.
Me.
Yes. Well, you too. You should show up too, please. It's on November 6th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Be there.
Be there. Yeah.
Or I'll suck your blood.
Ooh, some people would want that.
Yeah.
We got some spooky listeners, surely.
Oh, I know. We have at least a couple.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll find the details posted to Patreon.
Yeah. And I should do that soon.
Oh, sure.
It's just in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's coming up.
Okay, a local gay bar review.
Ooh.
It makes me happy to do these, Kyle.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy. I totally prepared one before right this second.
And you'll know because you lead into it very naturally, like this.
Yep. Let's see. Let's do this one. Park Place in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, Jacksonville.
Went there with the boyfriend because we were in town for a wedding. That's where he's from. Or went to high school there or whatever. I wrote, it's cute. There's a cigarette machine.
Florida.
There's a fun outdoor patio space. I really did like that space. It was a little muggy and warm, but we sat near a big fan, and that helped. And then talking to people there, I heard multiple stories of car accidents that included alligator invasion.
Oh.
Evasion, not invasion.
Evasion. Okay.
Like multiple stories of people who got into a car accident and then had to run away from an alligator.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
It was horrifying. Yeah. I really liked the place. I had a lot of fun. 3 dildos.
Great. Cool.
You ready for the rest of the thing?
Yeah.
Our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on socials at Gayish Podcast. If you want to find our Discord, where there is, in fact, a Send Nudes channel, or our Facebook group or any other way to follow and stay in touch, go to gayishpodcast.com/contact.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
Our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. Yeah. Let's do our gayest and straightest.
Let's do our gayest and straightest.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
I'm happy to go first. I just have to remove my local gay bar review so I don't accidentally do it again. Great. The gayest thing about me this week is our contractor is hot.
Oh, man.
So bought a house and doing a bunch of work on it before we move in because it's easier to do when it's empty, changing the flooring, doing trim, doors, that kind of stuff, whatever. And our contractor is a 39-year-old Latino soccer player. And oh my God, and he's kind of flirty. And he's flirty despite knowing that we are faggots. Like, but I don't think he's gay. He doesn't seem to like. I don't know. He's just he's hot, and I keep looking at his crotch. The straightest thing about me this week is for the podcast, listening to Joe Rogan. Like that's a straight person thing to do.
Yeah,
straight dude thing to do.
Oh, for sure.
And
it's an incel thing to do.
I hope to never have to do it again. How about you, Kyle?
That's too much to ask of you for this podcast. That's you went above and beyond.
Well, yeah. I did.
Yeah.
I deserve an award.
Yeah. We've won an award.
We did what we did. Yeah.
Twice. Yeah.
What if we're going to win again?
Well, we should enter.
The thing I like about that award, the Popcorn Award, is like we didn't have to apply for it.
Yes, we did. I did.
Oh, never mind.
I submit us.
Well, that's great.
My gayest is watching when I should have been asleep at like 2 a.m. watching an old Kathy Griffin stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly.
Okay. Yeah. Gays love her.
Gays love her. I loved her. I was in college, still in the closet, or had just come out and like watched a ton of her stand up. She was like one of my first connections to gay culture.
Yep. My life on the dick list.
Yep. My straightest is admiring a cool car.
Oh, wow.
I looked at the car and it was real neat.
Are you going to buy it?
No.
Okay. What kind of cool car?
It was, I don't know.
Oh, where were you?
I was, it was coming out of my garage. My building's garage.
Oh, I wasn't even like you were forced to go to a car convention or something.
Oh, no. It was just a car
organic?
that existed on the street. And I was like, cool.
Wow, Kyle.
It had like a curvy hood.
Neat.
Yeah.
What color was it?
It was white.
Yeah, you're gay. I can tell you nothing about the car.
I have no idea what it was or what brand or anything. But yeah.
We have a listener's Gayest and Straightest.
That's
this
true.
time it sounds like it's a lady.
Hi there, Gayish boys. My name is Claire. I'm from Ohio. I'm a longtime listener of about 5 years. And my gayest and straightest for the week is my most lesbian is that I am going as chaperone for Halloween. And my straightest is that on campus this week, I wore a t-shirt that said, "I heart my boyfriend." Doesn't get much straighter than that. Thanks, you guys, for an awesome podcast. Love you guys. Bye.
First of all, Claire,
Yeah.
if you've been listening for 5 years, you absolutely can write in, call in anytime that you want to. We love our lesbian lurkers.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in. Chaperone. That's a good lesbian costume.
Yes.
Good call.
Yes.
I wonder which version she's going as, because there are lots of versions of her.
And evoking a non-existent boyfriend across your chest region with a t-shirt is also pretty good.
Oh, the boyfriend could be real.
I didn't get that impression.
Oh,
maybe. Well, now I don't. I'm questioning everything, Kyle. Maybe you're not a lesbian lurker.
maybe you're a bisexual lurker.
Okay. Bi people are real.
He's says dejectedly. That's it.
That's it. Thank you to all the vampires everywhere.
Yeah. Thanks for sucking real good. And thank you to our Super Gap Bridgers. Thank you to Locomotive, Kaylee Adams, Kit Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squoggle, Pip, Andrew Bugby, William Bryant, John Crowley, Yost Osel, Jonathan Montanus, Forrest Nail, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Just Jamie, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you.
Meat sack.
What's that for?
I don't know.